called it or explained it to you as urban rhythm analysis. Have you ever heard of that methodology, the name of that methodology? Yeah? Okay, great. So, just to give you an example of how even Rena came about developing that methodology, it's a theory of rhythm analysis with Henry Lefebvre that pays particular attention to the body as a foundation of composite natural rhythms. These elements are viewed as space-time unifying concepts in rhythm terms. And Lefebvre acknowledges how the interplay of common industrial time and reoccurring variation of human movement can be contextualised in the urban environment. I guess you're probably wondering, well, what does that all mean? Rena's given you her book to read in certain chapters about ritual and body performance and all of that sort of stuff. Okay, no? Yep. And you're learning about theorists and the grid and all those sorts of things in this particular course, which is absolutely fantastic. But we're taking it to that next level in terms of understanding it from a user consumption way of thinking about design, and then using those that analysis to then create performance, reflection, and so on. So, as you can see up here, the methodology called urban rhythm analysis has got 4 components. Henry Lefebvre asks you to immerse yourself into that space, and then asks you to reflect upon that. Rena Tawari and Diane Smith then took it the next step and added 2 components to that particular theory, where they added performance and projection. So I'm hoping that it's going to simplify some of the things that she was talking about over the last couple of months. And of course, then it's all rejigged in terms of how you actually apply it to your particular methodology, the way that you're going to use it in this particular assignment. So you've all got the maps and all that sort of stuff. You've worked out exactly where your groups are going to be. And yes? Yeah? Okay, great. No worries. Yeah? You haven't? Okay. So I just thought I'd show you a little bit about what I did. My thesis was called Dancing Around Architecture, drawing calls between complex building usability through dance intervention. And I guess one of the things that I started to think about, how do I implement this new notion, this idea of body performance, was why would, Rena teaches this in the education sector. For me, I question, well, why would corporate care about this? You're all sort of going, well, so what? You know, dance performance sounds a little bit too out there, right? So one of the things that I was particularly interested in terms of how I aligned myself with health practitioners was to question incidental activity and also to question sedentary behaviour of the office worker in the office tower. And given that we design office buildings, it's crucial to actually see how people are using that space and whether they're using that space to their advantage or not. How does that sort of pan out over a 40-year period of working and sitting at that desk or going to that same spot? So some of the questions that I looked at, the proposed questions, was do office workers find building design language in commercial office buildings hard to read and negotiate, difficult to move for health and easy to take the lift over the stair? Are there specific design factors that prevent and encourage human movement? And if so, what are these factors? I did a 100% written. Of course, with 100% written, there's also mapping and analysis that goes along with that. So it's not just 100% if you're considering in the next years to do 100% written. It's a combination of all of that sort of stuff. And of course, it has to make sense, right? I align myself with the philosophy photography. Looked at all of the health practitioners, doctors. We've got Dr. Joan up the top there. She's one of the NASA specialists that looked at elderly people versus the astronaut and how that affected the degradation of the body and so on Earth, and gave great advice about how to have a long life. There were all these other sorts of fantastic people that I researched, and it was under the title of the ills of sitting. Of course, you know that the chair is a killer. So, as I'm saying, you should stand up and have a little dance. I then looked at the beginning of the mechanised complex building. I guess this is what they would consider the first skyscraper. They never had a word for skyscraper back then. It had 5 steam-driven passenger carts, as they called it. And as it turned out, part of the reason why people, buildings were only a certain height was actually because people were a bit lazy. They don't really want to go up any more than 4 flights of stairs. So consequently, in New York, what they did is anything above 4 flights was cheaper rent. They had sweatshops up there, anything that was manufacturing or whatever, and all the lawyers and so on would take the lower floors. Of course, once the lift was introduced, things were flipped on its head. Of course, rent got more expensive and so on. So, of course, you've been understanding all about that. I looked at the architects, the owners, the developers, managers, and so on, and worked out and understood exactly what it is about how these people are using these particular spaces in existing buildings in Perth, and continued on with an audit in a specific section. I didn't do all of the CBD, of course, but in a specific section to actually get good grounding about how do the concierge operate their space. What does the property manager use with their space, and so on. Whether or not people use the lift over the stair. The first building that I studied was with the actual experiment where we did a performance piece. Was the Annex building, or the 100 St George's Terrace? Next. Do you know next to the greenhouse? Yeah, everyone knows the greenhouse. So it was a really wonderful space. You don't know the greenhouse? You should have a look. Well, anyway, so it's a really wonderful space in terms of the fact that how they've operated it. But one of the things that they did in this particular foyer is they don't actually give the office worker the choice to use the stair over the lift. And you go in and you go straight up, and that's it. You would never see the stair at all. And so the dance in itself, if we've got time, I can show it to you. The dance in itself was in reaction to the fact that people actually didn't have the freedom to move in that particular space. So then those sorts of questions started adding up, asking people, would you prefer to use the stair, would you prefer to use the lift, and so on and so forth. And as you can see, I'm not sure if you've read that, but you can see one guy was pretty cheesed off with the fact that he could have run up his 3rd floor quite quickly and kept fit. This idea of keeping fit, this notion of incidental activity and using that as a consideration for design, but he would have to go outside, go up, go in to get up to 1 floor. It's quite ridiculous, as he had suggested. As you know by now, I was specifically looking in terms of design, the lift over the stair. And there is a stair in this particular design, but you can only access it from level 3. So I don't know about you, but that seemed pretty ridiculous to me, given the obesity epidemic and these notions of cardiovascular disease and all that sort of stuff. I reckon if I was working in that building, I'd be a little bit cheesed off. Okay, so I did clearly a series of field notes through human movement and collaborated with the performing artist about how she was going to move in that space. Empty space, no stair. There was a lot of sarcastic or interesting nitpicking in terms of the dance. Of course, I would have to go through the whole lot with you. When you see it, look, it's a fun project and everyone took it with great wit. But if we went through it with it, you know, you'd be going, okay, I see where this is coming from and so on, and how that relates to design. So basically, with this, I looked specifically at the characteristics of the building and then the characteristics of the users in that building. That was my form of immersion, and then collaborated with the performing artist to come up with ideas about how she was going to then do the performance, which was her task. The projection was how the audience took it. I had advertised for everyone to come down for a lunchtime interlude. Come and check out this, you know, chick dancing around the foyer, crazy kind of office worker. What does it all mean? And I had, you know, about 50 people come down, filled out surveys and, you know, gave me good anecdotal evidence about what it is that how they felt about that particular space. There, of course, there were the people that were completely oblivious to it, even though there was, you know, trumpet music going on, and they just walked straight through the dance. It was quite funny. She interacted with that and played with them, and so that was an unexpected notion of the dance. And then there were also the window people. So if you understand that space, there is this large window that comes along here, and we had all these people staring in the window. You know, yeah, it was good fun. So I did two of these performances. One influenced the other. In the end, outside of all of what I had written, I had then realised that I had created another methodology, because then you're pulling it and making it legitimate. Because I was using specifically a research methodology called translational research, basically this is where we've got rhythm, immersion, again, performance, projection, reflection, and of course my addition is called rhythm translation. And I just simplified it and called it modified a tool for practical application. So you're not going to do mine, of course, but you are going to do Rena's. Just thought I'd give you a bit more of an explanation about what this assignment's all about. So here we are with last year's work. I'm going to show you maybe 3 good projects and a couple that I would really recommend you avoid. So this guy, well, I thought it was actually, in the end, one of the best. I didn't quite understand this mapping over here in the corner, and as you can see, I'm not sure what it's telling me. And if you do that, I will say I'm not sure what this is telling me. But he was looking at the takeaway food outlets on a particular strip, versing that with exercise. Of course, given that I'm looking at sedentary behaviour and so on, I'm going to gravitate to that. So here is the map that he was looking at in terms of how much takeaway food outlets there were, and then he created his storyboard about how it was going to be performed, and then there's the explanation. Okay. This particular girl looked at littering, and one of the assignments on that particular year for design, I believe, was the redevelopment down in Claremont. And of course, this is another way of explaining it. And she had obviously imposed her image onto that space. That was a good assignment. And this girl here was looking at the vibrancy and the consciousness of us as human beings in that particular space. And so how do you then demonstrate something that's not tangible? So she used material to express that, and I thought that was a really good project as well. Okay, so here's what not to do. Don't put a hair bobby pin instead of a stapler, okay? It's really unprofessional. I stapled it, even though this is a great map, I stapled it back her. You wouldn't do that in a professional environment. It's not very cool to do that here. And of course, then we have this one here. We really don't want stick people. Your third year architecture students, please make it a bit more sophisticated, and remember your graphic artists as well as architects. It's all about the show. Okay. So, like I said, I'm pretty sure that you've worked out what spaces you're going to be looking at in your tutorial. Have you got your groups together? Yeah? Okay, so today you need to hand that in, the title, your name, specifically where you're going to be. What I'm going to do, I'm going to collect that and I'm going to go through, and clearly what we'll be doing is we'll be starting down here. And so if someone's down here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay. In terms of documenting it, so I'm just playing on the fact that you might have about 5 groups in each tutorial. Would I be right in saying that? So you've got to document your performance. So what will happen is whilst group 1 is performing, whilst group 1 will be performing an act, group 4 will be videoing and photography, doing some photography work for group 1, and then the same thing with everyone else and so on. Okay, I'll give you a list of who's are going to be taken care of. Sorry guys, I just need to make sure that you know what's going on. Okay, so as I said before, in terms of videoing the performance and for doing the photography, group 1 will be performing it, group 4 will be videoing that, and expected a quick exchange of information so you can get on with your projects, okay? So clearly group 2 will be performing, group 5 will be videoing group 2 and so on. I'll give you the list on who it is that will be taking care of it. In terms of that information, please write all this down because you'll be contacting me with questions and all that sort of stuff. For the rest of the hour and a half, for those who haven't worked out where you're going to do performance, please go outside, find out what you're going to do, take photos, bring them back, and jot down on that plan where it is and who it is that you're being involved. For those who have done that already, please stay. We're going to have talk about how I can assist you with the ideas and theories that you want to come up with. Okay? Yeah? Awesome. Okay.
That's her book. That's her book. This artist, man. Artistic, bro. Okay, guys, sit down, please. Go ahead, son. Say something.
What's up, man?
No, it's supposed to have green light. Green then is record.
No, red is red.
Huh? Is it?
Yeah. So.
Why you press?
No, cause like he said something else now. Is that what he said? Huh? What's up? Hello, Baba.
I think around minute 35 say you can hear my voice.
What's up? Okay, okay.
Okay, 6%. Coordinate now. Let's go.
Us.
What is it? B2B. Holiday also.
Got really tripped up big time.
Masa kilo ya? Oh, ikut kilo.
Oh, the leader. Come here, leader. Everybody has their own research area, their own ideas. Write in your report. Write in your report. Please overcome that. I'm not. And it seems like it's the same language.
Let's go.
Take the map.
One group, one map.
Can I have the leader's name? You know, who's the leader? Yeah? Do we have an email address and phone number for that, please?
Why is there no bin in this room?
What?